What is going on, everybody? Welcome to or back to Ryder's Record Collection. My name is Carl. Today I want to do a quick contest entry to Andy's from Next Play Records, pushing 200 subscribers. It's called Next Play Records March Madness Bracket. Andy has a great channel, big fan of him, really good jazz taste. I'm learning a lot of jazz from him. He's right about there. I think he's at 197 subscribers, which when I checked this morning, so he's almost there. I highly suggest you check out his channel. Great guy, good attitude, really nice from what I can tell, and really enjoys multiple types of music, but he's definitely into his jazz. This contest that he wants us to do, he wants us to make brackets based upon March Madness, essentially, but make brackets starting with 8 records, 4 regions going against each other, narrowing it down to your final records. So without further ado, I'm going to get this going, and my first region is a jazz region, specifically bossa nova, Latin jazz. I found that that's my favorite type of jazz, and I went with also geographical regions without realizing it, but this geographical region for this category is Brazil. Both albums that I'm going to talk about in this region are very heavily influenced by Brazil. Bossa nova, Brazilian bossa nova music, and feature artist from Brazil. So the first album in my jazz region is Getz Gilberto, Stan Getz, released in 1964. This is the album that helped popularize bossa nova in the United States and worldwide. It is very famous for the song The Girl from Ipanema. If you haven't heard of Stan Getz, he is a huge guy in bossa nova. He's an American, but he went to Brazil, super influenced by bossa nova music, and he made a ton of bossa nova records through the 60s, and this is a great one. So Getz Gilberto is going up against another phenomenal bossa nova album, and this is Herb Alpert presents Sergio Mendes in Brazil 66. Herb Alpert, I'm a huge fan of Herb Alpert. He had an eye for music. I don't know if anybody knows this, I'm sure some people do, but Herb Alpert is the A in A&M Records. A&M Records is Alpert and Moss. So in addition to his band, Herb Alpert, the Tijuana Brass, he was also a record executive, and he signed this band. This was released in 1966 as also a jazz bossa nova album. Both these albums feature vocals, but this one is just phenomenal. It won an award in 1966, although I can't think of the award off the top of my head. They do a very cool cover of Day Tripper, and just the 2 females that sing on this album are absolutely incredible. And actually Herb Alpert married, I believe, that one, and when I saw him in concert, she sang along with him playing the trumpet. So this is my jazz region, specifically my bossa nova jazz region with a geographical region of Brazil. And I'm going to do it in the same layout that Andy did. I'm going to run through all 4 brackets and my 2 albums going against each other, and then we'll pick one, do the final 4, and then the final 2, and then we'll go from there. So my next region is my classic rock region, specifically 1960s classic rock. That's the era of classic rock that I think I gravitate towards the most. 60s, early 70s, but definitely mid to late 1960s. In this geographical region is the UK. Both these bands are English bands, and first up is the Kinks are the Village Green Preservation Society. Released in 1968 in the UK, 1969 in the US. This is the 6th album by the Kinks. They recorded this when they were banned from the US. The Kinks in the early 60s, 65 or 66, Ray Davis and his brother got into a fist fight on stage, and the government, or whoever's in charge of censorship, banned them from playing in the United States. So as opposed to their British invasion counterparts, the Kinks stayed very, very British, and this is an album that's a prime example of it. This includes rock, pop, folk rock, a tad bit of psychedelia, and just that like lush, pretty pop sound that was around in the 60s that the Zombies and the Beatles definitely honed in on. So released in 1966, 68, 69, UK band, the Kinks are the Village Green Preservation Society. And they are going up against a heavy hitter, the Beatles' Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. This was released in 1967. It's the 8th studio album by the Beatles, and the genres in here include rock, pop, art rock, and a whole heap of psychedelic influences. This is, I'm sure that if you're in the VC, you've definitely heard about this, if not have heard this whole album, so I don't know if I need to elaborate, but it is very, very good. Just a whole lot of great songs on this one. So the Beatles are going up against the Kinks. My next region is my modern rock region. This is specifically, personally, I think modern rock is post-1990s. I'm a 90s kid. I don't consider myself a classic yet. When I turn 50, maybe my music from the 90s will be classic rock, but this modern rock era that I'm going to focus on is specifically 2010s, and the geographical region of this is the United States. So the first album here is by one of my favorite modern day bands. They're about to hopefully drop their 5th album soon, but this is the Orwells, Terrible Human Beings. I discovered the Orwells when I went to the Governor's Ball in New York a few years ago. They played and they put on a hell of a concert. This was released in 2017. It's their 3rd album. The genres in this are garage rock, garage punk, and alternative rock. They're great. This is a great album. Yeah, just the whole album's really good. So the Orwells' Terrible Human Beings are going up against another really good modern day rock album that I thoroughly enjoy, and that is My Chemical Romance, Danger Days, The True Lives of the Fabulous Killjoys. I believe I've talked about this in another video. This is My Chemical Romance final album. This was their follow-up to the epic Black Parade, and this was released in 2010. The genres on here include alternative rock, pop, punk, power pop, pop rock, and punk rock. And this is just the Black Parade. You can see the influence of Queen and Bowie, and this you can see the influence of the Stooges and MC5 and the Sex Pistols and all those punk rock bands. And cool concept album, very, very good. So MCR Danger Days is going against the Orwells' Terrible Human Beings for my modern rock bracket. And last but not least is my reggae bracket, or my reggae region. This is specifically Jamaican reggae artists. I was going to go with UK reggae artists, but then I realized that I went with UK classic rock bands. So these are reggae artists that specifically came out of Jamaica. And the most famous one is going to be this guy, Bob Marley, legend, the best of Bob Marley. This was released in 1984, and this is just a key reggae album, and I think anyone's reggae collection. I love this album so much. I love Bob Marley a lot too. I've got almost all of his albums, but this is a pretty key album that I think everyone should have. And this is going up against Black Uhuru, however you say that, Black Uhuru. Red. This was released in 1981. I think this was their 2nd album, but this is just really good reggae also. They have the most popular song I think on here is the song called Sonji Reggae, and if you haven't heard that, I suggest you check that out, but this is a great album. So those are my 4 regions. We've got my jazz, bossa nova, specifically Brazilian music, my classic rock region, specifically 1960s UK bands, my modern rock, specifically 2010s US bands, and my reggae region, specifically Jamaican artists, and no timeline on that because Bob Marley was around in the 70s and 80s, and Black Uhuru released their album in 1981, but legends from 1984. So we will start this from the top, and we will put the 2 against each other. Okay, so region number 1, the jazz region. Gets in Gilberto going up against Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66 debut album. I'm going to go with Sergio Mendes and Brazil 66 debut. This is just a really good all-around album. Beautiful voices, beautiful instrumentation. It's a little more tempo changes, a little more interactive than Gets in Gilberto, but Very good. Gets and Gilberto is also very good. I highly suggest you check that album out, but this is going to win this region for me. Next region is my 1960s UK rock region, classic rock, and this is the Kinks versus the Beatles, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. I love this album, although I hear it all the time, and this album is the most recent album that I got into, so this one's going to take the cake for me and beat out the Beatles in the classic rock region. All right, next is my modern rock region, where we have the Orwells going up against MCR, Danger Days. I love both these albums, but I'm going to go with what I tend to play more, and I tend to play this more, not necessarily on my turntable, but in the car, driving to and from work, working. I just tend to gravitate towards the Orwells a little more than I do My Chemical Romance, although I'm a big fan of late night Black Parade sessions, so that's not to put My Chemical Romance down at all. And last but not least is my reggae region. We've got Bob Marley versus Black Uhuru. Red, I gotta go with Bob Marley. Just accessible, easy reggae. I grew up with Bob Marley, and he inspired my love of other artists, specifically people like these guys, so he's going to take the cake because he's the guy that led me into the reggae region. All right, so we are down to our final four, and that means that the Kinks Are the Village Green Preservation Society is going to go up against Sergio Mendes in Brazil 66. I got to go with just what I play more, and that's going to be the Kinks Are the Village Green Preservation Society. As I said before, this is a great album. I actually got it more recently than the Kinks Are the Village Green Preservation Society, but I find that I've got to be in a specific mood to listen to jazz music. It's mostly on the weekends, mostly in the mornings when I'm having coffee, or if I've had a long, stressful day at work. So, great album. I just got to be in a certain kind of mood to listen to it, which means that the Kinks are going to take the cake and go into the final two. And next up, we've got the Orwells versus Bob Marley legend. For this one, I got to go with the Orwells. Nothing against Bob Marley. I just primarily play him when I'm on a boat or at the beach, which is quite a bit of time, but he doesn't hit the turntable as much as the Orwells tend to hit the turntable. So I got to take that based upon how much he gets played, and that's nothing against Bob Marley. I love him. He's great. Like I said, I've got almost all his studio albums. This is just a younger band, and they tend to do more for me on a getting excited emotional level than chilled out Bob Marley. And we are at our final two. So this is going to stay up here, and this is going to go against the Kinks Are the Village Green Preservation Society. I'm going to go with some tracks off of each one to paint you a picture. So this one, some standout tracks are They Put a Body in the Bayou, Fry, Vacation, Black Francis, Heavy Head, Ring Pop, and Double Feature are some of the standout songs on here that I really enjoy. And on the Village Green Preservation Society, the whole album's really good. The Village Green Preservation Society, Do You Remember Walter, Picture Book, Johnny Thunder, The Last of the Steam-Powered Train, Big Sky, Sitting by the Riverside, Animal Farm, Village Green, Starstruck, Phenomenal Cat, All My Friends Were There, Wicked Arabella, Monica, and People Taking Pictures of Each Other. So, out of these two, the Kinks are going to take the cake. I can listen to this album anytime. It is just so good from start to finish. And if you haven't heard this album, it's not for everyone. I've tried to turn some of my friends onto it, and they say it's definitely an album that's up my alley, but man, it is good. There's not a bad song on here. Some of my favorite songs are Wicked Arabella, Do You Remember Walter? Big Skies. They're all really good. The beats, the texture, the instrumentation, the lyrics. It's a super, super British album, in the sense that they talk about being British in this album a lot. They tend to do that with, I think, Arthur, The Rise and Fall of the British Empire. But the winner of my Next Play Records March Madness bracket is the Kinks Are the Village Green Preservation Society. I love this album. There's never a bad time to play it. It's got songs to get me pretty hyped. It's got songs that bring me down. So overall, just a great record. And that is my bracket, and the Kinks are my winner. So Andy, thanks for putting this contest on. I really, really enjoyed doing it. You've got a great channel. I hope you keep it up. Really, as I mentioned before, he's got a phenomenal taste in jazz. I really enjoy watching his videos and streaming the jazz music that he talks about. I'm learning quite a bit. He's turning me on to some different types of jazz, as I mentioned before, primarily a bossa nova guy, although I do like Miles Davis and John Coltrane. So he's introducing me to some cool stuff. I will leave a link to his channel below. And if you like this video, please throw it a like. If you like the channel, please consider subscribing. I'll have some more content out for you guys soon. This is just a fun contest, and I really enjoy his channel, so I wanted to support it. And that's where we're at. So thanks. Enjoy. My name is Carl. This is Ryder's Record Collection, and I will chat with you guys soon. Cheers.